Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Tuesday, guys. Happy Tuesday morning. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. Got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Tuesday, guys. Happy Valentine's Day to all my beautiful ladies and my men. Yes, ladies, men should be celebrated as well. So, guys, your girl is, listen. I'm coming out of the cold, and let me just tell you, I ain't got time. I ain't got time for this nonsense. I despise being sick. But I'm so much better today. The last 2 days have just been horrendous. But I'm so much better today. So I want to jump on really quickly. In addition to telling you guys happy Valentine's Day, I just kind of want to talk to some of you who are grieving in different ways. Some of you guys are grieving heartbreaks. Let it be from, I don't know, a marriage or a relationship not working out. And like today, you're in this funk because it's Valentine's Day. To those of you like myself who are grieving the death of a loved ones, as well as maybe those of you who are, I don't know, maybe you're going through this place where it just seems as if you're stuck and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm going to try to chime in all in one. To those of you who are dealing with heartbreaks for whatever reason, listen, listen. Please, before you allow the enemy to get up in your head and start showing you all these pictures of balloons and candies and rose petals, listen. Listen, please go buy your own roses. Please go buy your own rose petals. Please go buy your own Godiva chocolates. Please go buy your own balloon. Please don't sit up in the house, just sobbing because it's like, well, everyone else is in love and here I am over here. Sis, bro, you do know, definitely not all, but maybe half, probably more than half, but half of those pictures are just highlights. Just highlights. You're seeing the beautiful dinners and the this, and that today. But back to tomorrow, people are miserable, right? So, and again, that's not everybody, but just don't allow the enemy to get up. And you have to really protect your ears, your eyes. You got to protect yourself from this petty stuff. Celebrate yourself. You don't have to wait on somebody to celebrate you, right? Take yourself to dinner tonight if that's what you want, right? Personally, again, I'm just rare, cut from a different cloth. I just feel like this right here, right? I think people, men and women, should be celebrated every day, not just for one day, not because it's Valentine's, not because it's Christmas, like every day. Celebrate yourself every day, right? Cherish the things and the people around you every day so that when these one day a year things pop up, which is just really commercialized, like don't allow the enemy to get in your head about stuff like that. Because you may really be grieving this relationship and you don't even realize that 2 weeks from now, your husband finds you, right? But you're thinking that God is punishing you because this person left you, or, I don't know, God won't let the relationship work out, or just, it seems like no matter how much you try, it's just not working out. Well, with some relationship, they're just never going to work out. Because sometimes God is not in some relationships. So we got to get to the point where we realize that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking about persistence. I'm not speaking about, because every relationship of all sorts will always have its ups and downs, right? But firmly, I believe there's a difference in fighting for something, and then there's a difference in struggling for something, right? If you're struggling to try to keep something together and you've heard from God about moving on, you gotta give yourself that room to allow God to come in and just let God be God. Because if God has made his mind up about a certain situation, there's nothing you can do to change the mind of God. There's something God knows about this relationship that you don't. Something he knows is coming, and he don't want you to be a part of it. He's protecting you from something. So you have to change your perspective sometimes. Let God do what God do, right? But most importantly, just please celebrate yourself. Take yourself out. Do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want somebody else to do it for yourself. Please, please, right? Because it's like, listen, we're not in high school anymore. Well, never mind. Sorry. To those of you who are grieving, let me just tell you, those of you who are grieving loved ones, or you're just being attacked, whatever the attack may be, back to back. For example, it could be something like you lost your job, then you lost your house, then your engine blew out. Now your kids are crazy, your man is crazy, your woman is crazy. Like, it's just like everything is happening back to back, back to back, back to back. It's like when you get out of one thing, something else happens. Come out of that thing, something. You don't even have time. There's no time for you to even grieve properly because these things are hitting you back to back. I want to encourage you to not stay down, right? I think this is a very subtle trap from the enemy, because it's like you're down, right? You're depressed and you're going through your stuff, but then some people stay there. But it's almost like you have to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm going through some things, right? I'm going to grieve this. But God, please give me some grace. Please convict me when you're ready for me to take that first step to come out of this funk. If you're not careful, the enemy will hit you so hard with certain things that you will literally stay down, and every single thing that you've been working towards prior to the event that happened is like everything just falls. I mean, years. You could have been working on something for 10 years. You're 10 years in the process of something, and boom, you get a major heartbreak or a major death in the family or whatever. And everything that you worked so hard for all those years, they fall and they just stay to the wayside. Versus, Lord, this is going to be a setback, right? But let me set this aside for a minute. But I'm coming back to this. But let me just deal with this. Let me just grieve properly. Be very, very careful, because we all grieve differently. You know, some people like to be smothered with love and smothered with, I'm the complete opposite. Please leave me alone. I ain't got time. Leave me alone. Stop calling my phone. Stop messaging me. I'm just different like that, right? And that's okay. And speaking of that, again, be okay with your differences. Be okay. I had to learn this. Like, I would literally have people to force me into what they think what they think my healing process should look like. Oh, Kizzy, you can't avoid funerals. That just doesn't look good. Kizzy, that doesn't look good if you such and such, or you got to answer your phone, or you got to have people calling you, just got to have a house full of people. Listen, if that's what you want to do, by all means, I'll send some people to your house for you, right? If that's what your grieving process looks like, do that. If your grieving process looks like mine, where you rather remember people the way they were versus I can't even say it because I'm just traumatized by funerals, things like that. But if being in your own space is what helps you, be in your own space. But just be very, very careful. You have to know the fine line between grieving in your own personal alone time versus being stuck in a grieving posture where the enemy literally gets into your head and start playing tricks with your mind. That's when you have to come out of that aloneness, and that is when you do need to tap in and find some people who can really pour into you. You got to be very, very careful there. So last night a friend of mine called me, right? Let me tell you. So since the death of Mr. Steve, and then just 7 days later, exactly 1 week later, the death of my oldest brother, people have been I have been ignoring calls, from family included, but for the most part, my family know how I am when it comes down to things like this right here, right? But I felt God was telling me, all right, listen, it's time for you to start answering the phone now, because, I'm tapping you to say, all right, you grieve, come on out of this thing, right? But I still, and I was fine, honestly, I was fine, but I still didn't want to be bothered, because not when people call you, you have to talk and relive everything again each call. So if you have 15 people to call you and it's like, oh, what happened, and oh, how can I, you have to keep talking about the same thing over and over. And if you're not careful, it will put you back in that funk when you've already, or you're trying to come out of it. But for each individual who's calling, right, they're bringing that energy. You're trying to, being the empath that I am, they're bringing that sad energy and bless their heart. They only mean well, seriously, right? But they're bringing that sadness. And then here as an empath, every time I speak to somebody who's crying or whatever, it takes me back in that funk. And now I have to go back through the whole process just to try to get some energy up. But anyway, so I felt God was telling me over the weekend that he wanted me to start answering my phone. I was like, God, I don't even like talking on the phone anyway. Like, can I have a few more days? So I was trying to ignore it. I've been ignoring phone calls all weekend. So last night, a friend of mine called me. I saw the number and I ignored the number. And he kept blowing the phone up. So now in my mind, oh God, what has happened? What has happened now? Right? Because things are just back to back. What? So now I'm ignoring it because I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk about this stuff. Leave me alone. I'm trying to come up out of this thing. Let your girl do what she do. I'll hit you back tomorrow or whenever. Blowing the phone up, which is very unlike his character. So when I answered the phone, right, I already had attitude in my head, right? But when I answered the phone and I say, hey, and he said, that's all I needed. I just wanted to at least hear your voice because this is not like you. Nobody can't find you. That's all I needed. Just know I'm praying for you. That's all I needed, is to hear your voice and know you're okay. Click. Well, I got the message loud and clear, Lord. Time to start answering my phone. So, know your balance, friends. Know your balance. Not your balance. Know your limits with your grieving process, but most importantly, ask God to give you grace to know when that time is coming to a head. Lastly, to those of you who are dealing with, maybe it's not love loss or losing people, but it just may be you're in this place where it feels like you're just stuck. And it just seems like you're not going left, you're not going right, you're not going up, you're not going down. And it just seemed like you're just stuck somewhere in the middle of quicksand. And it's like God is not hearing you. God is not answering you. You don't know where the next step is. Like everything that God says is looking the complete opposite way. Nothing's making sense. I'm just out here in the wilderness. Lost, confused, lonely, all that stuff. You are where God needs you to be. And I know it's hard to hear that, but you are where God needs you to be for right now. Before God starts to elevate you, you guys already know, well, some of you know, some people are, more newer in this thing, but there's going to be a season where God have you so alone. And when I say alone, I mean, it's just really you and God. Seriously, there's nobody. Like, for whatever reasons, friends fall off. In fact, God would just have some people just ignore you, right? All because he needs to really get you where it's solely you and God. He is teaching you how to depend on him and stop calling people every 2 minutes because you need a word. That can be very dangerous because when you're really seeking answers from other people, you can get the wrong information and then it's just throw off your whole journey, and you got to be careful. So the higher God takes you, right, God has to get some personal things to you. So he has to develop you where you can learn how to hear, how you hear, because we all hear from God differently, from God one-on-one. When God starts taking you higher and you enter certain places and certain rooms and et cetera, you can't pick up your phone and call 50 people and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think God is saying about this? What do you do? Right? No, wise counsel is very important, but not just, so God have you in this place where it's just you and God, and he's developing the way that you hear from him, right? He is starting your healing process, which is a whole process within itself. Again, the longer you fight against it, the longer you're going to linger in this season. Meaning, if he have started removing people, he may have removed that ex and been clear like this, he ain't going. You chose this fool, this child of God, you chose the child of God, and after you heal, I got a whole husband in Oregon for you, right? So I'm telling you, this person ain't it. You want him, you want her, but that's not who I have for you, because I know the purpose, the calling, the will, etc., that I need to be done in the next X amount of years. Cut it off. Don't look back. Okay. And you were fine with that. So now you're in this process. You got all your energy like, oh, I got this. I don't like him no more anyway, right? I got this. But in the middle of that season, there will come a time where your soul, where you feel like you're so lost, even to the point that you don't even think you can hear from God, right? And it's not that you can't hear from God. It's because your flesh is fighting against everything that he's doing, and you're kind of like freaking out, and you're having trauma triggers because it seems like now God is abandoning you and rejecting you because he's silent. And so because you're dealing with all this stuff, now you're going to want to run back to the very ex, to the very people that he told you to leave and that you agreed that you won't go back to, but all because you feel lost, abandoned, rejection. All these triggers are about to send you back to the very thing that God pulled you from. You ain't going back. I mean, you can if you want to make your head hard, but trust me, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, because you will abort every single thing that's waiting on you in due season. In that relationship, go back if you want. It's going to probably last 2 weeks and mess around and lose a whole husband or a whole wife that God had for you in due season because you were not obedient. That is a very, very that part in the process where some people are right now, it is a very lonely, scary, vulnerable, raw place to be when God starts to heal you. Because before you can enter a healing process, he has to undress you. All those traumas, all those childhood wounds, everything that you ever dealt with that led you into such a toxic lifestyle, right? And toxic don't mean like you're out here just going crazy, but just the fact that you even allow some type of people in your life, right? What is it about you that you can just let somebody into your life who's playing with you all kind of way, who's disrespecting you in all kind of way, who's dishonoring you in all kind of way? Why are you dealing with somebody who's constantly cheating on you? Like, what about you, and not making excuses for the other person, but what is it about you that will even have you dealing with that? So I got to really work on you. Because when you're healing your whole, you don't care who leaves you, or you don't care who you have to leave because they're dishonoring you. You wouldn't care. You wouldn't care about, oh, well, Valentine's Day is February 14th, so I got to try to hang on to this toxic relationship until February. Child, when you're healing whole and you know what you carry, you already know what time it is. You got choices, period. So you don't have to even deal with that nonsense. So God he has to peel you back like an onion, right? That people who had trauma and things like that, when God starts peeling you back and you're feeling vulnerable and he's starting to remove every guard you ever put in place to protect yourself, when he starts disarming you, that's a very, very vulnerable place to be. And you want to fight against every single thing he's doing because you're so used to protecting yourself. But he has to get you to stop protecting yourself so he can protect you. So you may be sitting there because you're fighting against it. My God, I know I did, honey. Lord, right? So he's going to let you sit there until you get tired enough of fighting or trying to go back or trying to, whatever you're doing, you're just trying to get out of this thing. You're trying to figure it out. You just don't like this feeling of, right? He's going to let you sit right there until you tire yourself out. So you can actually prolong that process. But once you get to the point where you're tired enough and you finally realize that God is who he said he is, and he ain't going to let you fall, regardless if it feels like you're falling, but he's not going to let you touch that ground fall. That's where you want to be right there. disarmed. Because when you are disarmed, then that's where he needs you to be, so he can come in and start to really work on you, right? And start to build you up, teach you the things that you should have always known, etc. Like your values, so you're not sitting here dealing with some cheating spouse, man or woman or whatever, right? So he starts to really build you up. He starts to have you seeing yourself the way he sees you. Because let me tell you something. If you ever had a season, right, and this is where some people are, once you come out of this, you will know. When you've had a season where God have loved on you properly, if you had a season where it was just you and God have loved on you, any man after that will catch hell. Not you're trying to hold him up to God's standards. You sure can't do that. But whatever he's bringing, it has to match that peace, right? Not God per se, but the fruits of the spirit. Anything after that, you don't want it. If it's drama, you don't want it. If your character, if your integrity, you ain't got time for that, right? You ain't got time for that. But when you are craving toxic people just to say that you have somebody, person can be a whole crackhead, not dissing and not disrespecting crackheads, right? Love crackheads, right? You would deal with a whole crackhead just to say that you got a man or just to say you got a woman. What is it about you that makes you feel like you have to settle with this? So I just wanted to encourage you guys, because again, I know a lot of people are going through different things. The enemy is being very, very, very petty right now, because so many people are close to destiny or already in destiny. Like, I mean, listen, he's pulling out his big guns. I can't even lie. He's pulling out his big guns, but at the same time, you have to be intentional. Make your mind up. Like, listen, dude, you can throw what you want to throw, right? And I ain't gonna lie, you may knock me off course for a minute, but it's going to be a minute because I'm getting right back. So you might as well go ahead and move about it the way, because I'm going to keep pushing, right? I'm going to keep pushing. I ain't going nowhere. Period. Point blank, period. Get up, guys. Get up. Take your time, breathe, but don't stay there. Get back up to every single thing you were working on. It's your girl, Kizzy Rob.